All right, today we are discussing chapter 15, and it's being led by Mikhaila. I can't remember what it's called. What's it called? Mikhaila?
Concerning spiritual intercourse.
There you go. Okay, so that one. So Mikhaila set up a set of questions. Take it away.
Okay, so my first question is in response to this quote, so I'll just read it out. Men have wandered from the way and have lost sight of this, the most precious part of the function of sleep. It has a far greater purpose in the economy of God than giving rest to a weary body. It was used from the beginning to make God known that he had a spiritual as well as a physical nature, to show the outlaw Jacob the way to the spiritual home. So questions in regards to that is, do you believe this, and how does this make you feel?
I was going to make a little edit. The quotation you just said there, Mikhaila, it was used from the beginning to make Adam know he had a spiritual, not God know he had a spiritual. You said God instead of Adam.
Sorry, yeah.
But just because it's being recorded, better edit that. Okay, so comments.
I guess I'll start with what that was for me. That brought up a few different feelings for me. Like, it brings up a bit of excitement in this starting to expand into this idea that nothing has only one purpose, and that God has made sure that everything has multiple purposes. And I really like that idea. And I'm starting to consider that more. But it also just makes me feel annoyed, because it's like, well, okay, this is what's happening and we've got all this guidance at nighttime, but I don't know about it. It doesn't seem to impact my day. Where the hell is it? So that's sort of how it makes me feel. How about you, Virginia?
The sleep state, it fascinates me, of how this is just, it's life, that we are never sleeping really, until we transition. But I believe this, I truly do. And I know it affects everything. I know I learn during this time. For a while there, I was remembering a lot more. And then I guess I wasn't liking maybe what was happening, because now I'm not remembering as much. So I need to build that, I guess, that desire to want to remember more, because it did give me a lot of understandings about what was also happening in the physical world, in my everyday life, and my addictions and emotions. So it's extremely useful. I want to remember more of it and really utilize it for what it's all meant to be, actually. That's it. Thank you.
That's really cool that you've been able to have that real clear experience of it and have a strong faith in it.
I do.
Yeah, nice. Alicia?
First of all, just you saying I'm excited really touched me. Just you saying that, I felt that excitement, and it helped touch something in me too. I remember years ago, this is before I had any idea about the sleep state properly, I would take people back into their dreams. And it's such a huge difference to understand it from divine truth perspective. And to realize that, wow, there's so much to learn from that place. Like Virginia said, I also sometimes I remember a tiny, tiny snippet when I first wake up. And one of the things I endeavor to do, but sometimes I just need to go and pee. But if I can manage to wait, just staying there and noticing my feelings rather than even necessarily images or words or anything, really helps me to sort of integrate that a little bit in the day. I mean, it's like a teeny minuscule amount, but your sense of excitement, and it's being everything God created multi-purpose, with a multi-purpose, that really touches something for me to want to explore this more. It's, yeah, there is an excitement that you've touched upon. Thank you.
That's cool. I'm glad for that. Did you find that when you used to do the work around dreams that there was some correlations that now that you understand more about it, that you were working with?
Yeah, hugely. And I mean, I understood that everybody's situation was completely unique. It wasn't like, you know, the dream books with symbols and stuff, because the green apple to me means something completely different to me as opposed to you. And I remember endeavoring to help people go back into the feeling, like go back into the dream in a almost like a meditative state. But I can recall now that I didn't do that enough for myself. And this chapter is really encouraging us to go back into that. It's and use that time first thing in the morning, because so often we're like, oh, I've got to get on with my day, I've got, you know, things to do. And I can really have more faith in, no, that's a time when you've just got to be with whatever's gone on and use that to instigate your day as a foundation for your day.
Yeah,
But
that's great.
I feel like I've only done it a minuscule amount, and mostly I don't remember.
Yeah, I understand that. Does anyone else want to add anything to that one? Mila?
Hi, yeah, what I got was that I'm connecting to how much I want control. And it makes me feel crazy that I don't know what goes on in my sleep state, because that means that I don't have, like, out of control. I need to know what's going on in my sleep state. What am I doing? So I can feel this obsession about not feeling in control because I don't remember what goes on in my sleep state. So right now, my motivation to want to remember is because I want control. So like at this point, yeah, I desperately want to know, what the hell am I doing in my sleep state? I have to know. I have to be in control. So yeah.
Yeah, so that would definitely be standing in the way, hey? Yeah. Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. Oh, Michael, yeah.
I was just going to say, it makes me curious. I don't believe it, but that's my bias. So, I mean, I'm not, this material is new to me and I don't practice it. And what I've tried, you know, to go to sleep with the idea to remember what I dream about never works. So my beginning point is that I don't believe, but I'm being challenged to be humble and to realize I don't really know a lot. I may think I know a lot, but I'm really inflexible and controlling in my life. And I would rather keep plowing the same furrow and try to get a different, you know, plant beets and try to get wheat. In other words, try to keep doing the same thing and get a different result. So I'm hearing Afrar saying that well, I'm going to have to unlearn what I've learned and learn new things and have some flexibility and curiosity about that. So this is changing. This is giving me something new that I'm a little uncertain about, and it makes me curious, and I'm really interested to what we're going to say about it today. So thank you.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. Let's just get my phone. Okay, so this is the quote that we're referring to. So this night school of the soul has been designed to demonstrate the fact that there is no death. There has been no interruption of its service since the time that Adam is recorded to have learnt therein that he was a spiritual as well as a physical being. But under the teachings of priestcraft, man has allowed his memory of the lessons he has received to be laughed and ridiculed into oblivion. The regaining of the faculty of memory is a personal matter entirely, which every soul must achieve for itself. So the question is, what do you think stands in the way of you remembering what you're getting up to at nighttime? Who wants to go first? Virginia.
I feel that I judge what I'm doing in my sleep state. Because when I wake up and I know I was in addiction during my sleep state, I'm judging it. And then I stop having that memory. I'm not remembering as much because I didn't like what I was doing and I'm judging myself for it. So I'm trying to love myself more instead now, because it is definitely stopping all the memories that I was having before. Yeah.
Yeah. Did it seem like when you were used to remember more that you came upon quite a big experience, and that was when you really stepped into judgment and was able to stop remembering? Or was it not that clear?
I had more of a fuller experience where I came back with, when I came back with emotions about what I was seeing, it was clear to me about what it was and what I needed to learn from it. It hasn't been as clear for me lately. So, and I know, and I've looked back at this reading this chapter has really made me look at it, that, hey, you're not remembering your dreams the way you used to. I actually used to write them down. I would get up in the morning and start writing because I had that clarity at that time. And even if I didn't understand it, I might look at it later and hey, that really makes a lot of sense. I get what's happening here. And I'm not getting that clarity right now. I'm not remembering a lot. So I feel it's because of my judgment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lisa?
So I mean, okay, so here's my question. We're talking about sleep state experiences or dream state? Because there's two separate, my understanding is we have dreams to work out, give ourselves messages subconsciously of what emotions are up and that we might be avoiding, but then this actual sleep state. So are we talking about the sleep state specifically? Is that what you were referring to, Virginia? Is your sleep state, you were having memories of what you were doing in the sleep state?
And sometimes I wasn't really sure if it was sleep state or a dream. If I wrote it out, then it would be clearer for me if I remembered more details. But yeah,
Okay, yeah,
most of it,
because
I'm just sleep state. Sometimes I feel that's a little blurry for me as to when it's a dream and when it is a sleep state experience.
I was going to say that I often will remember wispits of dreams or themes of dreams. But when I really made an intention, okay, why am I not remembering my sleep state? What's happening in the spirit world? And then I finally did go to the spirit world and I saw the person I feel is my soulmate. I was trying to find him and I was kind of chasing him, and he was running off to go have sex with a whole bunch of women. And after that, I totally shut down the experience. I was like, okay, I don't want to know my sleep state anymore. So it's like, it was almost like obviously, the law of attraction was showing me, here's the next emotion to deal with. Do you want to keep being aware and feel and grieve what's happening, what's really happening in your sleep state? So, and then Mila checked on me in my sleep state too, which was really helpful. And that felt really resonated as a lot of truth to me, what you got, Mila. So I think it's a huge tool. I just do have a lot of blocks. Like you, Virginia, were saying you shut it down from judgment. Yeah, it's like I didn't want to feel the emotion that was shown to me. Like I didn't want to fully grieve and feel the impact of what I experienced in the sleep state. And so then I shut it down.
I feel like what Virginia was pointing out, what I felt coming up in her was grief as well. And that I think it challenges our facade. Like right now, I'm grieving even though it's a facade. I'm grieving that the loss of the facade, which is that my facade is that I'm a nice person, and I'm grieving that actually I'm not. So it feels really like, so in this facade, I'm not going to want to see in my sleep state that I'm not a nice person, because it challenges the facade, and then you have to grieve the loss of that image that you thought you could have. So for the rest of my existence, I'm going to look back in my life and feel the grief, like I can't get those nice feelings that I really wanted of what a nice person I was. And it's like I'll never get to have those feelings, and it's really just tearing me up in sadness and anger and all. So I'm kind of listening to you guys. I'm just beginning to wonder if it's the facade, our attachment to a facade, that stops us from seeing the sleep state. So Virginia, if what you saw challenged the facade you wish to believe about yourself, then that would bring up a lot of grief. Yeah, hopefully that gives you some clue. And I'm also wondering, as I try to, if I want to start remembering my sleep state, I'm probably not going to know if I'm going through dreams or sleep state to start with. I'm probably going to have to go with what feels like a dream and explore it to be able to distinguish what sleep state is and what dream is. I mean, it feels blurry to me as well, to be part of the process.
And I think, like you're saying, with the challenging of the facade, like before, like in the daytime when we're awake, before we're even going to challenge the facade, we have to accept the facade first. And whilst we're not doing that, we don't want to remember what we're experiencing because we judge it. Yeah. Alicia? Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks. I feel like Virginia and Mila have pretty much said what I was going to say about myself. So yeah, about self-judgment, not wanting to really know myself, wanting to control it, and also have that blurry thing between dream and sleep. But I do notice, like Virginia said, that you used to do that. Even if I only remember one thing when I first wake up, I'm just remembering something this morning. If I start writing, it sort of comes back to me while I'm writing, and then a whole load of grief comes up while I'm doing that, if that makes sense. So, but I couldn't tell you, was that from a dream or was that from the sleep state? But the beautiful thing for me is that, oh, great, a whole other load of emotions coming up here. I'm seeing something else a bit more clearly. I don't know if it's a dream state or sleep, but it's brought up something else that needed clearing out. Yeah, thank you.
Michael, thank you, Alicia.
So I hear us saying that if I, like I have a healthy facade. So if I'm continuing to invest in my facade, then I don't really want to see, in my waking life, I don't want to see who I really am or know the truth of myself. And then automatically that's going to cut off the memories of the sleep state, which seem to be more, have a bigger basis in truth. Something like that?
Yeah, that's how I see it to be. Yeah.
Mikhaila's done quite a few sleep state visits for myself and other people, so it's she's got some experiences there and what she sees and how. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just inviting you, Mikhaila, to share what you've learned from doing that.
Well, what I see, like pretty much every time, is so far outside the range of what we perceive as normal and what we perceive as safe. And so I think that's what really restricts our ability to remember. Because it's, I mean, yeah, like that question, Michael, it seems like it's all about the facade. We have such a strong facade in our day-to-day world that keeps us in this sort of narrow band of expression and safety, and it's so much bigger from what I've seen in the sleep state, and we just don't want that bigness. Like I'm the same. I don't want that bigness. I don't want to see that much about myself. And so I just don't remember, or I just remember snippets. Does that answer your question, Mila? Is that? Yeah. I just found like what Alicia was saying about remembering dreams. I've been playing with it, especially since reading this chapter. I often remember dreams, and I don't know whether they're sleep state or dreams, to be honest. I'm not clear on that, but more and more I'm having emotional experiences in my dreams. So then in the daytime, I try and just talk to God as much as I can throughout the day about that emotional experience. And I find that that's been quite a powerful process, because it's just helping me to see. And like the dream I had the other day was apathy. So all day I was just stomping around the place talking about how much I don't want to do anything. And it felt quite good. I felt like that was a great way to work with what I do remember. Virginia?
So you're saying that you can intentionally go into someone else's sleep state and bring back information for them?
Well, I think that's what's happening. I'm not 100% convinced. And sometimes I think maybe it's more that I'm just interacting with my guides, and they're giving me images that are going to help them. I'm not 100% sure about it. But I've done it a fair bit with Mila, and what seems to happen with nearly every person that I visit is it does go to an emotional place, and their guides are often with them. And Mila, you're saying that it has impacted your physical, like your day-to-day experience. Yeah, so I don't really know. I'm not clear exactly on what is going on.
That's super cool. And I'm
Yeah.
fascinated. I'm fascinated. I think that what an amazing gift. Wow. Wow. Yeah.
Well, I think we could probably all do it. Like Mila, like once I discovered I could do it, Mila started doing it. So I think it's in I don't know, intention maybe. But thank you. Okay, so shall we move on to the next question? Oh, Lisa, yeah.
Well, just one comment about that, or question about that. So that's something that I would love to learn, or learn a little more about. So just to throw out ideas for a workshop, I would love to learn, like, well, how do you help each other in the sleep state and get clearer and clearer that it is actually real, or how do we clean ourselves as an instrument to be of service to others? Because I know that that time Mila visited me, it was hugely helpful. Helped me work through some emotions and get really real about some things, and it felt spot on to me. So I would like to learn that. So I'm just throwing that out. I guess that's not really a question, but because I realize now in asking the question, Mikhaila, it's not the time to discuss how to visit each other in sleep state. But I want to throw that out, Mila.
Or maybe Mila and I could do it together. Yeah, because you've got different insight to me.
I pretend to coach Mikhaila to teach, but at some point I'm going to let Mikhaila teach. There you go.
All right, well, we'll see how that goes. Okay. Selena.
I was just going to respond to this second question. I just recently had an experience where I feel that I could really feel that I had been in agreement with my guides on something that they were introducing into me, like they were bringing in people that they were mentoring to participate in the things that I'm doing, I guess, and so they could learn and I could get more help from those people without getting too complicated with it. But it was when that became clear to me, because I've been kind of confused about my guides, because it just felt like there was more and I couldn't really figure it out. And there was more, but they're people that are kind of learning. And they had actually asked me in the vision that came, and I got this strong feeling that I had been asked and agreed. And I knew it was my sleep state. I knew that they had asked me and agreed. It's kind of like when a doctor has a group of student doctors, residents, and they say, do you mind if these people learn from your case? Because it's very interesting and unusual, and they could help you with these various things that you have. And I thought, oh yeah, that's it. So I just thought that was kind of cool, but I had such a firm feeling of, I agreed to this, that they could observe me. But help too, because then I did have an occasion where I could call on one of them for help in an area that so they kind of wanted to help with people doing mediumship, was the feeling that I got. But they also had various aspects of knowledge or life experience that they could contribute and that they were also learning from. It was cool. I don't think I've had that before.
That's so cool. That it just, to me, that brings up that idea that there's so much support available on all these different levels, and we're a part of the support to other people as well. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah, and they're learning and we're learning, and people are mentoring and teaching through us or with us or for us, or with, it's just neat. Like, there's just so much economy of it all in multi purposes of it, of the things that it's great.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alicia.
Oh, I just wanted to second Lisa saying, yes, let's do a workshop, please. That would be great. And it's also reminding me of working energetically with people. Often I've said, well, I may do that transmission distantly at a certain time, but it's like an email. It depends. You can choose when to open it. You don't have to do it at the same time. And it reminds me of the sleep state, because obviously in the sleep state there isn't, as it's part of the spirit world, there isn't time as we have it here, I guess. That's a question too. I don't know. And that awareness that, as you said about, I don't know if it's me doing that or it's guides, talking to guides. That's how it often feels to me, especially now. Not like years ago when I felt like I was more involved in it. It feels more like I'm just the medium, really, to go through my guides to your guides, and I hardly have to do anything actually. But so that makes sense, that what you are feeling about working with your guides and then working with the guides of the other person. So it sort of feels like there's a similarity. So I'd really love to learn more about what you've been doing, definitely. So thank you in advance.
Yeah, I found that, Mila, yeah.
Go ahead, Nicole.
I found that through the process of doing it, the more that I actually stepped out of the way and just prayed for God, or how can I help this person with God, and to really hand it over. But to, like you say, just kind of be that medium, because I guess a lot of people are more interested in engaging with me than they are in engaging with God. So it's just, I think it kind of opens up that channel with intention, and that's where it can help people. Mila?
So my blocks to remembering sleep state, one is I don't want to see myself as I really am. So for example, my facade of being a nice person is something that makes me really sad that I'm not. And then also, what if I'm actually experiencing a lot of love in my sleep state, that I get to visit my grandfather all the time, and I don't want to remember that because of contrast of being on Earth's life, where I don't feel like I'm getting all that love that I am getting in my sleep state. Maybe the contrast would trigger too much grief that I don't want to feel about. So it could be that it's that you're getting so much love and good in your sleep state that you don't want to remember that because of the contrast and the grief that would trigger in your awake state. Could also be another reason.
Do you think if you're getting that love, though, that it's impacting your day-to-day experience, whether you're remembering it or not?
Ooh, that's a good point. I mean, sometimes I wonder, how have I had the resilience I do in staying somewhat sane? How am I not even more destructive than I really am, considering the damage I've experienced? Yes, I've wondered sometimes, what is this protection I've had? So it could be that my ability to receive love from a certain group of people that I had relationship with as a child, that relationship continued with the bond with the grandfather or something, maybe. I mean, if I was willing to remember my sleep state, all of these answers.
It seems unbelievable to me that we could know all of it and that we could really actively work with this support network that's there. Yeah.
And that we already
day.
know a lot of answers to a lot of mysteries that we don't know when we're awake. Like, oh, that bugs me.
Yeah, that mysteriousness bugs me too. I'm like, why does it have to be so mysterious? Lisa.
We could start off with, I really frickin' don't want to remember my sleep state and really go there, right, Mila? That's what you're always telling us. But like, be real about it. If we're not remembering our sleep state, we don't want to. I don't want to.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. So we kind of already, the next one was, how do you think these lessons that you're learning at the nighttime engage with your daily life? We sort of talked about that a bit. Does anyone want to add anything to that?
I've had experiences where I will make a plan before I go to bed. I will say, tonight in my sleep state, I want to learn the following things. Or tonight in my sleep state, I wish to hang out with so-and-so. I'll hang out with my guides and here's what I want to figure out. And I'll wake up in the morning going, oh, I feel like I know something now. I feel like I got some answers. Something's been figured out. I don't remember it, but I'm living from that place now. So I've had a few of those experiences where if I'm deliberate before I go to sleep, I'll wake up going, I figured something out. I know something now. So I've had some, I can remember some positive ones.
Yeah, cool. Alicia?
A question, do you feel like we can actually process some of our emotions in the sleep state? Because I feel like I wake up in the middle of a process sometimes, and then I'm awake with it for a while, then I'm exhausted and fall asleep again, and then I wake up and I feel, oh, I feel better now. So it feels like maybe we can process some emotions, but I'm not very conscious of it. I'd love to be, but.
Mikhaila has seen me many times in my sleep state processing emotions, very, very raw, that I will not be doing in my awake state. She's seen me do that a few times. And I also wake up, I've not had a good night's sleep in a long time. It's just the way it is right now. But many times I'll wake up 2 or 3 in the morning in an emotion. And I'll stay in it for a little bit, sometimes hours before I go back to sleep. So it can be, I think that's, can happen. It can be used as a tool. And when I wake up properly, I cannot find that emotion again. I do not know how on earth I was able to connect to it. So obviously it happened in the sleep state.
Michael?
I was listening to Mila talk about going to bed with an idea or a question. And the suggestion came to me, and I'm wondering if it has any merit, that like if I asked for help with an item, then I could wake up in the morning and I might have an inkling that it's there. So if I'm largely unconscious of my soul or my unconscious, it might be a clue to find something, to begin to identify something in me that I would normally not recognize, you know?
So Michael, you're suggesting starting a treasure hunt.
I did.
It sounds exciting. It's like, ooh, treasure hunt. Michael can go to bed going, I would like to find this treasure. But until you get up in the morning, you're like, I see an X in my map somewhere. I'm getting closer. I mean, putting it like that, it sounds fun.
I think as well, Michael, when you were talking, the idea just came of, like, because you feel that you don't believe, you could start to almost lay little challenges that are kind of simple, where you could get simple answers. It's not too complex. It's not too necessarily maybe even emotional, but it could help you to start to develop this belief in that you're receiving and get insights during your sleep that you can then remember in the daytime.
Okay.
And in regards to emotion, yeah, it's something you can play with maybe. in regards to emotion, like Mila was saying, I often people that I'm doing it with get to a point of emotion, but what Miller and I have seen is that it sometimes takes a few days for emotional release to kind of to the physical to be worked through before it can come into your physical experience. Yeah. Cool. All right. So I'll move on to the next question. Okay, so this is the quote. Man is not a machine made up of standardized parts that may be exchanged and replaced as occasion may require. He is not simply a brute swayed and prompted at the impulse of instinct. He has been created in the image of God and is a most mysteriously complicated being, actuated and directed in accordance with the working of a spirit within him, which, as yet, he is scarcely in a position to recognize and certainly not able to comprehend. Hence, the greatest and profound mystery of creation, which man has to face, is himself. How do you feel about facing yourself is the question. So I'll, okay, yep, Mila.
I'll go. So how do I feel about facing myself? I'm very, very angry. I have a lot of anger that childhood events had so much power and control over me that I've become damaging to others and to myself. And I still want to believe that I am able to overcome my childhood events and that I'll be able to overcome that they couldn't destroy me. So that I was able to overcome and rise above whatever people did to me. So I have a lot of anger about the fact that outside events were succeeded in destroying me, and I don't want to see the damage done to me and the damage I've now done to others, because I'm blaming, well, if people hadn't damaged me, I wouldn't have turned out so terrible. That's the feeling I'm feeling about it. And I'm very, very angry about it. I'm very angry about the powerlessness and how people have gotten away with making me down and turning me into something pretty dark. So that is stopping me from facing myself right now.
You seem to have faced yourself in other areas, you know, and so it seems to, you know, you go through processes where you face something and then you discover something new and a whole new process of emotion comes up.
Again.
Yeah. Because of all the people I know, you know, I admire how much you do face yourself. It inspires me.
Yeah, but there's a lot I don't want to face about myself. Quite angry. But then maybe it is a self-deception. Maybe I face myself more than I think, and this emotion of that I don't want to is probably maybe not even real anymore. So that's a good point, actually. What if it's already expired? It's like, what are you talking about? You went past our long
On this one.
No, I do feel like I don't want to face myself as I really am, because I'm still invested in blaming others for making me become a person that I don't want to see. And that's blocking me from seeing my sleep state. Because in your sleep state, you are who you really are in that particular state of damage, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Lisa.
Yeah, but even that is such a level of self-awareness and facing yourself right there, what you just said, Mila. I just wanted to comment on that your level of awareness of your resistance is a facing of yourself in the beginning process that so many people aren't even there. They're so in denial. So just wanted to comment on that.
Thank you.
Alicia?
I love the way the words come up just before. Yes, I'll put my hand up to denial and resistance and living in that. Not all the time, but in lots of ways towards myself, living in that. If that hadn't happened, then I wouldn't be like this. Like, it's like overwhelming to me sometimes that it feels like, okay, I get one thing, but then I notice, well, there's that and that that's like overwhelming, and I'm I get lost in how much there is to look at and how much there is to process. It just feels, it's not like it's overwhelming when I get one thing. I don't mind that overwhelm, but then I realize, whoa, there's so much to deal with. I have no idea how the hell I'm going to get through this. So in answer to that question, the first thing that came up is I'm shit scared. That's what came up immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like an endless pile of stuff, doesn't it? That will never end and will never be changed. It will never be different.
Yeah, thank you for saying stuff.
Shit. Lisa.
I can totally relate to what you've just said, Alicia and Mikhaila, of the overwhelm. But what I've noticed is that often I feel that overwhelm when I'm not willing to really just dip into the next layer of emotion. And as soon as I go to God, and God, knowing God is bigger than all of it, it just whooshes the next one thing that's the exact one thing to deal with out of me. So I've noticed that it's almost like, oh, I'm overwhelmed. It's almost like sometimes for me it's been, I'm not saying for you, but an excuse almost to not deal with that next layer and just really acknowledge, okay, this is poking up and I frickin' don't want to feel it. I'm scared of this one. I don't want to go there. Because we're just shown the very next layer. God's so gentle that way. So I just thought to say that.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa.
I'm also wondering if we need to process the layer of I don't want to be overwhelmed in itself as a layer. That is a block that we're going to come up with. Mary spoke about it quite a bit I can't remember if it was the 2016 assistance group layer in that phase that she was through. No, it was earlier. It was much earlier.
2014, Mila. That was when Mary spoke of it. Fear of overwhelm, lack of faith in ourself and God, and lack of desire for truth. The three main biggies that was Corny's talk.
Thank you. Yeah. So maybe that is a layer to be processed emotionally. I don't want to be overwhelmed emotionally because each of these emotions we're going to work through are all about being overwhelmed emotionally. So yeah.
I think as well, like I notice in myself that we still have these concepts of of time and that there's an end point, and we don't want, like for me, it's like, well, I don't want to waste time and there's so much and I'm never going to get through the end of it. So let's just be happy now and ignore that for later when eventually we're going to have to step through the whole process anyways. But I know that's something that stands in my way, is that I don't really want to accept that I just have to work through this step by step, and that's the process that I've got to choose to take eventually. I noticed for myself, the thing about facing myself is, like, even just in my physical day to day, when somebody confronts me with some truth, I kind of go into freeze and I just want to get out of my body. And I feel like maybe this is just a layer, but I'm more scared of what that other person is going to think about me when they see that truth in me, and how they're going to treat me based on what they're seeing in me. And so that keeps me from wanting to even acknowledge these things in myself. Yeah. Anyone else on that one? Is that
yeah, for me, it's all about how will I be treated now that you know this about me? That is,
yes,
ultimately the end piece of a lot of issues for me is about how was I treated. That's a lot of my anger is about controlling how others will treat me. The reason I want to control people is about controlling how they will treat me. That is what I'm trying to control ultimately, about controlling how I will be treated. Seems to be their piece. So yeah, that's a big sentence. How will you treat me now that you know this truth about me or see this about me?
Yeah, it's a good sentence. That one's hit me. Like, that's the fear. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, next one. All right, so the quote is, "Here arises the necessity for the school which God has provided in the sleep state, thoroughly equipped and furnished with teachers who are competent to teach and say, this is the way, and then guide their pupils into the appointed way of life. This way is most accurately suited to every individual need of the particular life under direction." So the question is, if you believed in this wholeheartedly, how could this support that we're receiving in your daytime life? Alicia.
I feel like a lot of the time in my daily life, I'm not very directed. I'm not very clear about where I'm going or what I'm doing. And I feel if I was more, as you say, wholeheartedly aware of what's going on in the sleep state, I would have more clear direction.
Mm-hmm.
And act upon that. I would feel less fearful and more desiring of acting upon that. That's where I feel.
Yeah, and just on that, like I noticed in myself recently, because it's really coming out with my son, is that I don't act because I'm so afraid of making the wrong choice. And whereas if we knew all this guidance, we wouldn't make the wrong choice. But I can see how for me that's kind of standing in the way of maybe even remembering what's happening because I'm so attached to making the right choice, you know.
Yeah.
For me, I've just started, like this chapter's really inspired me to be more active in my processes. And I've just started, like what we've been saying earlier, is to go to bed with that intention of believing that this support is available to me, and what would I like to work on, and how can I show that my desire is to do this and to be a part of this support system. And I've also been playing with it with my children and with other people, like praying for them of that they may engage in some way with their support network that's going to help serve them. But I've got to watch that one, that I'm not doing it out of my desire to control. Yeah. Anyone else with that one?
That if you could remember what you've just learned in your sleep state, you'll be less afraid in your daytime. Like I'm thinking we would be less afraid in our day-to-day life if we could remember the truth we've learned in our sleep state. There will be a lot less fear. Imagine us not having any fear of death because we really know what happens after. How would that change your life? Like, again, that's just, yeah, lots of ideas there.
And just knowing as well that there literally is this classroom that you go to every night where you're so nurtured and so supported. Like it's really inspired me to work on the resistance, because it's like, I want that. I want that. That's where so much of my grief comes up, is that feeling of being so alone and so abandoned and having no idea what choice to make, you know? Yeah. Alicia.
That just what Mila just said, it reminded me of just recently a friend who is not at all spiritual, but his father died, and then his dog just died as well, both of whom I knew. And talking to his kids, he became really open to me suggesting that, well, it's just another world, and don't forget, you have this sleep state every night. You can actually go and hang out together and play together, etc. So even though they are nowhere near on the divine truth path, but they were open to that, and it's almost like gave them what's the word I want? It gave them, it softened them in their loss. Does that make sense? So I can see that it's so useful just to even play with that idea. And the kids were really open to that. They were like, yeah, I'm going to go to sleep with that intent to go and play with granddad and the dog.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is very inspiring.
Yeah, that's great that you could talk to them about that and support them to open to a new idea. Well, they already know about it, but they don't consciously know about it, I guess. Lisa.
Yeah, so this idea that Mila mentioned about wouldn't we have a lot less fear in our waking state if we sought assistance from the help available in our sleep state? I wonder about that, Mila. My question is, don't we still hold in our beings certain like actual fear that has to be processed physically? Yeah, that's my wondering, because it feels to me that I am learning in the sleep state, but then I still have to actually do the yucky work of shaking and like crying. And I hate feeling fear. It's not fun at all. But it feels like I still need to feel it when I come to my waking state and do the work on the physical level that for some reason it's not translating over automatically and making me less fearful here, you know? So that's my question. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Do you have an answer to that, Mila? I don't. Alicia.
Isn't that what you said about, yes, you can emotionally work through stuff in your sleep state, but it takes some days before it actually comes through into the physical? Wouldn't that be a similar thing with your fear? So you could maybe process to a certain extent, but you have to still go through it in the physical. Would it be similar?
I remember somebody in Australia who's worked a lot with Jesus and Mary said that he was doing a lot of grieving in the sleep state and he felt it was really good, but it wasn't yet translating for him to the waking state. But I think there was soul growth happening, but for some reason he wasn't doing it on the actual in the waking state. So I don't know. I think there's often a dichotomy between these two states, and we're more advanced in the sleep state usually in terms of what we know and what we're willing to feel because there's not as much facade. And yeah, I don't know why that transition for me is harder. But I'll get curious about it and I'll ask.
So I'm looking forward to the treasure hunt adventure. Where are my fears? Where are my emotions?
Yeah, I don't understand the reason why it doesn't seem to translate through. But I mean, at the end of it is all about the soul. So I feel it would be making an impact if you're having emotional releases in your sleep state. But yeah, I don't understand why it's not so obvious in the physical straight away. Yeah, Lisa.
I just had a thought, and that is for me, I know I have a lot more fear of people's response on Earth to me
Oh, yeah.
than I do in the sleep world. Because you're not surrounded by you're surrounded by people that are more similar to your wavelength when you're in the sleep state. Whereas when you're here on Earth, there's more, for me, I have still fear around attack and stuff and judgment, even just judgment, somebody who's a friend judging me. So I have weird fears more so here, I think.
And I guess as well, maybe the fear of death and the fear of pain is different in the physical versus in the spirit world. Yeah.
I had a dream where I was being tortured to death or I was gonna be, murdered. I was in a concentration camp, and they told them murder her because she's old. She's too old. She can't work. And so I just walked right up to them and turned myself in and said, fine, if you want to kill me now. And the guy put the gun to my head. And he had forgotten to put bullets in the freaking thing. So then I still had to face my fear of being tortured and waiting out this ominous death that was going to come. I was like, just get it over with. I'll go to the spirit world. No problem. Anyway, I have fear of being attacked and tortured, obviously.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so next question. Okay, therefore, in seeking to open communication, is it not far better that the aspirant should seek unto his God for all his supplies, needs, and guidance direct, rather than apply to those who stand as interpreters of the beyond by means of seances and familiar spirits? And the question is, why do you choose to seek spirits or your guides before you might choose God? For me, I don't really have a clear answer to this question, but I know, I think it's related to the resonance. I want to communicate with people that are more resonant to me. I don't want to challenge the emotions that God, if I'm, directly communicating with God, I'm going to be overwhelmed by emotion, and I don't want that, and I don't want the truth. So I'm much more inclined to go for the easy path where I don't have to challenge my addictions so much, and I don't have to be overwhelmed by truth. But also I can still get that special feeling of I'm communicating with something spiritual, and it can sort of, there can be much more falsity around it, you know, if I'm choosing that than if I'm choosing God. Lisa.
I actually prefer communicating with God, or in the past have strongly preferred it, because I've had a lot more fear of people rejecting me, more fears around interacting with spirits or people, because spirits are people. But just yesterday on the airplane, I was having a lot of fear as we had turbulence. And I couldn't connect to God. I just felt God wasn't there at all. I tried to close my eyes and I couldn't feel God. It was like God had abandoned me. And luckily, I was able to connect to Rachel, my spirit guide, and I could feel her. So that was different, was that she was more accessible, because in that moment, I was having this abandonment feeling by God. So God was like non-existent. So it was easier in that moment to connect to my guide. But I do still, I think, prefer to just kind of go straight to God. Sometimes I'm like, oh no, I should greet my spirit guides before I greet God. And they're like, no, you go straight to God. You're fine. You don't have to talk to us. We're just here to help. You know, because I have this like weird, dutiful, like, I need to acknowledge you and thank you. And like, you know, that weird, I owe them something energy. So yeah.
That's cool that you choose God first. Virginia.
Sometimes to me, God feels unattainable. And I doubt whether I'm really speaking to God, that I'm really feeling God. And so if I'm to speak to a medium, then I get answers in words to questions. And it seems easier than being in that place of doubt of whether I'm really speaking to God, communicating with God, feeling God, you know, which is kind of sad. Actually, it's making me sad just saying it right now that I have those feelings. It's actually, yeah, it's making me actually pretty sad right now.
Well, I'm glad for that. Not that you're sad, but that you're connecting to it. Good. Oh, have I frozen? No, I'm still there. Okay. Does anyone else want to add to that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, for me, it's usually processing anger towards God. Tend to be, when I'm angry with God, that's when we're not talking. That's when I'm talking to my guides instead. I try to direct my question to God, even though I may not receive answer from God, but I've been guided by my guides to always direct the questions to God. And if I'm not able to receive it from God, then guides and other people can help for the answers to be received. But for me, it's usually anger. It's the abandonment feeling. You abandoned me before. Why do you want to talk to me now? That kind of hurt and anger that tend to come up. Arrogance. There's a lot of arrogance I'm still working through. Yeah, so those things.
Yeah, that's one thing that you really helped me with is always bringing God into the conversation, even if it's just an intellectual process. It just seems to open up something else in the experience. Yeah. Alicia.
Yeah, sometimes it feels, oh, just a second, I lost it. Sometimes it feels that God's too far away from where I'm at. And as you said something about maybe I don't want to have as much truth as God's going to show me, maybe compared to my guides. And yeah, and sometimes I just don't feel good enough for God. And also I relate, sometimes I'm relating God as my parents, and then I get stuck. Like I get a relationship that's like, that's my real parent, but I can't quite get out of the earthly parents mode in order to feel this real parent. So yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Lisa.
In response to what Alicia just said, yeah, so I have layers of that come up often, where a new layer of how I feel about my mom's treatment, my earth mom's treatment, is now overlaid on God, and I can't connect. But I'm not sure if you do this, probably you do, Alicia, automatically, but I just go with that emotion right there. Like, you're gonna hate me, you're gonna criticize me, or like I just go into that emotion because I'm yearning from my heart to get back through to God in that moment. It's like I know it's just the next layer of a block that needs to just be allowed. That emotion that's coming up towards my earthly parent that I'm projecting onto God is the block with God right there. And so I go with that, and then that helps me usually have a breakthrough if my heart's strong enough in wanting that connection with God again. Because I go through so many permutations with God, like I can feel really connected for 2 days, and then the next day it's like, where are you? And then but I'm so longing to have that connection that I seek out the layer that's the next block, because I want to get back to that connection. And I know that that's helping me get closer to God.
Yeah, and it also feels that there's a part of me that it wakes up in me a realization that I have so many more layers of forgiveness to do with my earthly parents, because they're also God's children, in order to have a closer relationship with God.
It sounds a little bit, again, Alicia, like you're describing that overwhelm, like you get a glimpse and you're like, there's so much there, and you feel overwhelmed. Yeah. I liked what Mila said about that, of just allowing ourselves to be like, I can't feel, this is too much, and feeling that block of the overwhelm, the feelings of fear of the overwhelm as an emotion itself. I can't cope with, there's too much,
Okay, let's move on.
Cool. So I think this was the last one. Yeah, so God has perfected his own plan and design for reaching and directing every individual soul that comes into existence. Each one has his own appointed place to fill, which no other soul can take. And God has his own appointed and prepared method for bringing every soul to its appointed goal. From where the call to come reaches a man, he is directed to take the straight course, turning neither to the right hand nor to the left in pressing homeward. Then every spiritual gift that is necessary to his assistance and edification will be granted to him as he proceeds. But let a man beware. He who determines to choose by what method or manifestation he will be directed and advised will soon find himself out of the way and ultimately in the dungeon of great despair. So the question is, it seems so simple, that God's got so much ready to help us to do it his way. Why do we not choose that way? I'll go first. I feel like it's kind of what we've been talking about this whole talk, is just that not wanting to accept our facade and not wanting to challenge our facade. For me, not wanting to really truthfully look at my facade. That's what stops me from wanting to engage with God about it all and to receive all his gifts and his guidance. Seems a little bit ridiculous, but that's where I'm at, I think. Virginia.
I still feel that I get into a place where I fear punishment from God. I think that's my upbringing, and sometimes I think I'm past it, but then I'm not, because it's still there. It is a block to really having a good relationship with God, is that I fear punishment because of my addictions and all the things that I am in my life that I know are not living. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Lisa?
I recently went through several days where I was just really kind of full on doing my addictions. I was visiting my mom, chocolate, coffee, overeating. And then I went to sit down and just have a bit of prayer time, and God was right there. And I just started like sobbing. I was like, you still want to talk to me? Like, even though I've been doing this knowingly, it was just like, it was such a weird experience to feel that love just waiting for me, even knowing that I'm doing all this willfully. It's just crazy. I was like, I still don't quite get it because there's more emotion in me about that to feel. I feel like I should be punished for not being the good girl and willfully sinning. But no, God was ready to give me love. I was just like, okay, what's up with this?
Yeah, just listening to what you two both said, I realized that my kind of autopilot reaction to these questions is, oh, I don't want to accept myself. I don't want to know the truth. And I think for me, it would be worthwhile getting a little bit more specific around what it is that's actually in the way for me to choose that relationship first. So thank you for that. Anyone else? Mila.
I think for me, I want control. The idea that somebody else has a plan and somebody else knows better of what I should, of what help I need. I think it's the arrogance and control that I'm going, but I'm in control. What do you mean you know what I need and you're the one coming up with a plan and you know better than me? And so I can just feel my kind of like this anger coming up around it. So yeah, I'm not feeling humble that somebody else knows more than I do and can guide me better than I can. But I'm going to be in control and I'm going to be in charge and I'll tell you how it's going to be done. And so I can just feel all those feelings come up in me right now. Yeah. I'm the boss of you, not you. Exactly.
I think hearing you say that, I feel that that's a similar block for me too. It's that wanting to be in control, and yeah, so thank you. Anybody else? Is that the last question, or is there one more?
There's one more.
Oh, there is one more. Okay, so we'll move on to the last one. Spiritual gifts can be as numerous as the mercies of God and be equal to every occasion and need if they are sought according to spiritual direction. Be sure actions are observed, then every giveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that asking is the question. Mila, are you wanting to say something?
I think, again, addictions come into play, that I want certain gifts because that will make me feel superior, make me feel important. But then there's some gifts that I do become aware of that I seem to have this gift and things just seem to happen. Then when we go, that kind of blows me out of the water, that I'm going, how do I have this? Why do I have this ability, like praying, for example, on the gift of prayer? If that's a gift, I don't know how that works. But for some reason, when I pray, things happen for people. So then you're going, how do I have that? That doesn't make sense. Again, you know what? It's control. It's my control addiction. Then I want to control, like, what is this gift? What do I have? How do I do it? I want to control it. I want to manage it. And spiritual gifts, obviously, will not respond to addictions. You can't dissect them like that. So the gifts that I seem to have discovered are very puzzling for me, and I can't control and micromanage it. So then, and it confuses me, as in, why do I have this gift? How did you just give me these ones? They're too cool. They don't feel appropriate for who I think I am or what I think I want. That is more addictive. So I'm having like a power struggle with it.
Yeah, I noticed with me, like if I am honest enough and looking at the different gifts I have, it doesn't feed at my addiction enough. So I'm not driven to go there enough. So I'm more driven by the the special spiritual gifts that make me look good or make me feel like I've got something to offer, rather than the real gifts that are quite obscure and maybe not recognized by, you know, the norm at the moment. Yeah.
And also because it gifts, you kind of can't really take credit for it, because you're like, well, I just do this thing and stuff just happened, and I can't take any credit for my sweating. You know, these were gifts, so obviously they're not mine. So yeah, I think if we start to dissect it, we'll probably start to go, it's the addictions that makes us not appreciate the gifts and not even seek to awaken more gifts, because we see gifts, we see abilities from addictive perspective, and if it doesn't match up, we don't even think about it. It's kind of
Yeah,
cool
and it's
the results of the gifts, but then you kind of go, but I can't really take any credit for it. So have I really actually done anything? Can I even feel good about myself for doing something? Because it's not really mine. So I'm very confused about it, to be honest. Yeah.
mm-hmm. Yeah, we want the gifts to fit in with the norm so we can get paid and get validated and that sort of thing. I see that for me. Yeah. Anybody else want to add anything? Lisa.
I think for me, it's just mainly trying to focus on asking for love from God, and then all the pain that blocks me from being the full expression of half a soul that I am gets pulled out of me, and I become more, you know, I feel like we all have gifts. We all have the ability to pray for each other. That's what I feel. But we all have unique personalities and ways we'll contribute as part of the workings of the whole divine plan. But yeah, I just try to keep focusing on asking for love. But what blocks me is that feeling of I'm being a bad girl. I know I'm doing addictions willfully. Me judging myself. But like I discovered the other day, gosh, if I just even go and want to connect, God is still there, amazingly merciful, and wanting to still give love, and probably wanting to help take out some of the reasons I do those addictions, you know? So it's just amazing, like, to focus on what is blocking us from just asking for love and connecting, wanting to connect with God. That's the core. Like, if we can get that, we can move forward in joy and love. I feel that I'm feeling more compassion for people as this happens, as more little dribbles come in. I feel a lot more compassion and love for people. So it feels good. It feels so good to be becoming more loving bit by bit, you know?
So
Yeah, nice.
sleep state, what would you guys want to do with sleep state? What's inspiring you now? Are you curious to explore why you don't want to remember sleep state? Are you wanting to do a treasure hunt in your sleep state? Do you want to take lesson plans into your sleep state, or do you want to even set intentions of like, I would like to remember one thing from my sleep state when I get up tomorrow morning? I don't know, like, well, what's coming for you guys? Virginia?
After this last question, I feel like I'd really like some clarity as to what my gifts are, because I don't feel that I have that clarity.
Nice.
So do you want to take that question into your sleep state? Is that what you're
I do.
saying as well, or is
like
that just in general?
Yeah. I'd like some clarity to see it, and maybe I can get this in my sleep state. Or I'd like some clarity as to what my gifts are. I do believe that everyone has them. I kind of get angry about it. I want a list. Damn it, I want a list. Just
I'm just surprised.
got nothing with the package like that.
I'm the Christmas present to myself that I gotta unwrap for the rest of infinity. Wow. Yes.
Selena.
I have a client right now that's very, she's been pretty much vegetated for the last 35 years. So it's, yeah, no, it's just her legs have been removed and she's very crippled and she's in one position like this all the time, but her eyes move. Sorry. So I've been doing a lot of praying at night to be with her in sleep state so that I can connect with her better. And I feel like that's been happening. You know, the other day I was reading to her and I just really felt her looking at me and I just looked up and it took a while. It's like her brain takes a long time to connect, but then she smiled, which is even hard to tell between a smile, a grimace, or a gas pain. I don't know. But it really felt like a smile, and it really felt like a smile with intention. And I was quite thrilled, and I cried a lot. But I feel like that's what I've been doing in sleep state, is trying to connect with somebody that's completely non-communicative. Like she just can't express anything really. And like, I just feel really compelled when I spend time with her that I can connect with her in some small way. So I think it's working.
Thank you. Others?
I would like to, it's so easy to list off a bunch of things I could do, which I know are going to help me, which I know I'm not going to do, and then I'm going to feel bad about myself. So what I notice I'm already doing, I'd like to kind of to keep going, and that is because I always remember my dreams, and to just work with the emotions that are coming up in my dreams more intentionally in the day, even if it's just asking questions around those emotions or recognizing when they're coming into play. That's something that I know that I'll do, so I'm going to do that.
Perfect. Thank you. Michael.
I'm afraid to ask questions, you know, and to take action and to try to get answers. You know, I would rather stick with something vague. So where I would start would be more like the treasure hunt. And it's just to ask for experiences that help me to know that I do have a sleep state and that I can feel something outside of the normal that's inside of me that wasn't there before. Just be able to get my fingertips on it.
That's exciting. And you can make it be an exciting emotion just to get you going.
I could be creative. Yeah.
Really. So for myself, sleep state, I think I'm gonna have to work with the fear and the layer of self-judgment. I'm working on another layer of the addiction to self-punishment right now and punishing others. So, but I think I'm gonna have to become really, really strong in not engaging that addiction. And then, yeah, I have a feeling that it's a self-judgment, like Virginia spoke about, that is stopping me from remembering my sleep state. That is probably going to be a lot more doable than I think to remember, considering how mediumistic I am. It should come back to me pretty quick once I can change or get rid of self-judgment. There's something about that I'm gonna have to clear it. Yeah. And then maybe there's some wonderful things going on in sleep state that would be lovely for me to remember and embrace that about myself. Could be some goodies in there along with it. Yeah. Lisa, do you have something you want to add?
I just loved that you brought that up, Mila, to set an intention before bed. So it's making me go, oh, I can do that. I wrote it down. So I feel like, okay, I want an answer to this. I'll say it at sleep and before sleep and then see what happens. And I love that 2 to 3 a.m. time when our guides wake us up because they know we'll be raw and we'll be able to, it almost feels like that 2 to 3 o'clock time is a chance for us to pull our sleep state into our waking state more, because sometimes I'll lay awake for 45 minutes allowing myself to feel what's up right then in that layer, and it's bridging the gap like we were talking about, that dichotomy. So anyway, I'm just going to use that suggestion, so thank you. I don't have anything specific to say for right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Virginia.
I just have a question. Can you have, like, feel stuff physically in your sleep state, like pain or other things, not just emotionally?
Can I, one thing that I've started to notice in myself just recently is different senses are really coming through, and I'm having very different experiences of smelling things or really hearing things or touching things. And that's felt very much like it's something that's going on in my sleep state. But that's just little snippets that I'm starting to experience with that.
Okay. I've just woken up a couple of times now. I'm kind of getting that. I've woken up with, like, certain parts of my body being in really deep pain, where it's woken me. I wake up, and then when I wake up, it just goes away. So it's not really in my physical body. So right now, what I just got from that is that it's emotions that I'm resisting to feel in my sleep state. Because isn't that when you have physical pain, isn't it resistance to emotional pain?
Well, it starts with that layer that.
Is that, like, yeah, I'm just
Call it the
thinking,
introduction to the layer. I call it the introduction. When you start with the physical pain, you're at the introduction to the process. You start from that layer and then you go in. So I see resistance. Sometimes we judge resistance, so we judge this judgment by the word. So I call it as a knock, knock, start here on a treasure hunt.
oh, okay, yeah, thank you.
And the resistance was created a long time ago, but so you got to start. How are you going to start the hunt? It's going to start with the physical sensation. It's very helpful.
Yeah, it's happened a couple of times, so I just wasn't really sure what to do with it.
Terror, find the terror.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. This has been a very fun and productive conversation. Lots came out, and we will continue on in a couple of weeks.